I'm Jamie, back with another episode of Gold Rushes of Australia. In the last episode, I talked to you about the move to deep lead mining, going deeper to tap into ancient underground rivers containing gold-bearing gravel. In places like Ballarat, it transformed the goldfield and the town itself as more and more companies were formed and more permanent houses and buildings were erected to support the growing population. I mentioned the introduction of share trading to major centres like Melbourne, Bendigo and Ballarat, bringing with it a new kind of treasure hunter, those that made their fortunes without lifting a shovel. Of course, there were plenty more who lost their fortune betting on the next big thing which someone claimed to have, coming along pretty much every day. Let's talk a little bit now about the introduction of quartz mining, which, like deep lead mining in Ballarat, transformed places like Bendigo into incredibly rich cities. In fact, Bendigo for a time in the late 19th century became the richest city on the planet. Diggers were aware of gold-bearing quartz from fairly on in the piece. In fact, the first gold found in Victoria in Clunes in 1850 came from quartz. In Bendigo, diggers could see the gold-bearing quartz in the Seven White Hills on the north of Bendigo, but they didn't have the know-how to get it out. It wasn't until the alluvial gold started to run out that miners began taking a closer look at quartz mining. Initially, they used an open cut method of mining, using picks to break into the quartz before following gold-bearing veins of quartz deeper into the ground. Now, they used the quartz roasting method, setting up kilns to roast the quartz to make it easier to crush and crack open. Now, the deep quartz mining operations brought with it major operations, including large steam-powered stampers to crush the quartz and employing lots of men to do the dangerous work of cracking into the quartz deeper and deeper underground. The Victorian Quartz Mining Company in Bendigo dug the deepest mine in the world at the time to follow those gold-bearing lines of reef. It reached a staggering depth of 1,406 metres during its lifetime, closing in the early 20th century. Bendigo has 37 lines of gold-bearing quartz reef running under the city. At the time of the quartz mining, Bendigo was covered in poppet heads, all working to exploit the gold from deep underground. The introduction of steam-powered battery stampers helped make the crushing of the quartz easier, but it was just part of the process to extract the gold. Mercury began to be used as part of the process to extract the gold. Mercury was added to the crushed quartz and would bind with the gold, and when heated, as mercury has a lower boiling point, it would evaporate, leaving just the gold. Now, this process was done in kilns that were supposed to be smoke or fume free, but it's highly unlikely that those working with this mercury would have escaped the poisonous gases. Mad Hatter's disease, which is another name for mercury poisoning, caused those afflicted with it to have everything from tremors to depression to a full-blown breakdown. This didn't slow down the growth of quartz mining in places like Bendigo, and sickness and injury were just accepted parts of working for these companies. It's all I've got time for on tonight's episode of Gold Rushes of Australia. I'll be back with more on next week's episode of The Miner's Den Show.